The soul is the blind spot that no one realizes is the blind spot. It's the blind spot to our greatness, the blind spot to our joy, our happiness, our contentment, our development of our many talents. And I think it's because of a couple things. How did we get here? Hi, I'm Alin. This is a channel on all things to do with soul, how to be it, live with it, lead from it, love from it. And frankly, I think it's a few things. One, we mostly associate the soul with the death and dying. And this is really the one big major crutch. Growing up, I don't know if you had this, but there are these shows where a medium or a channeler is the host, and then a loved one from that's related to the audience member would come through with a message for that person from the other side, a mystery to tell them that they love them. But the key is that you need this one mediator, an in between, to be the connecting communicator for the living and the dead. Okay. And then two, that we only acknowledge their soul, that the soul exists when that person has passed. But really, the soul has always existed. The soul existed even when they were alive. And that brings me to the point. We're living right now. The soul, our soul, each of our souls is here in our life through these bodies right now. And yet, it's very rare that I come across people that are actively cultivating and inviting, engaging, and leading their life from their soul. And so, because of this blind spot, we're mostly relegated to only operating from our minds. And what I mean by that is the nervous system, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our point of views, the things we've survived. Like all these things are mind things. Second, but much smaller role is the heart. For most of mankind, it's just the heart that keeps ticking physiologically. But serving as an actual compass often will come across as a conflict with what the mind wants and what the mind needs and what the mind's goals are. And thirdly, our stomachs are very much governed by our hunger and pain and pleasure. And this mode is a reduction of our range as a being. And this reduction of range, that we're only our minds, our hearts, our bodies, our stomachs, reduces us only to our thoughts, feelings, emotions, our dreams, and our physiological needs and wants. And we're so much bigger than that. Actually, that's not all that we are. Our soul contains the specific pathways and codes for our specific point of being here, the specific way that we're supposed to be here, our signature voice, our authentic thoughts, our origin of point of views. And so the point is to get the most out of our life and our potential and our talents is really about engaging the soul while we are here, while we're alive, while we have a physical body that can act as the user interface, if you will, to the universe for the moment. Because we don't know what happens when we die. A lot of people don't. That's generally the mass consensus. There are people who are able to feel or see, but in general, that even has a cap on how far along into the time-space continuum that they can view. And so, how long have we been having this blind spot? I would say that for most newborns I see, they're completely just pure soul functioning. And that begins to fade around 7 or 8 years old. Some people, I see it very early, depending on how early they were put in school. And there's just something about being in that kind of construct that doesn't allow the soul to flourish. It actually mutes it down. And it's only from the pure, simple gesture of not even acknowledging it, not even putting it in that song. I often will tell people one of the first songs I see, I didn't go to school here in the West, but I know that one of the songs that the kids learn is one that's head, shoulders, knees and toes to teach them about the body parts. And really, that should have been soul, head, shoulders, knees and toes, because it is very much, to me, I consider an organ. It is an etheric organ. It's still an organ nonetheless, because it is the foundation of what we are, who we are, and the source of our life force. And so, how do we engage with it? Because we have been out of engagement with it for a really long time. Whatever age you are now, like subtract that by 7 or 8, and it's been that long that you've been only operating from your mind. And if you're an adult, you're mostly operating from your mind and stomach at this rate. So the thing is, we're not, as I mentioned earlier, we are not only our thoughts, feelings, emotions, and dreams. We're not only the things we've survived. We are not only our triggers. We're not only our coping mechanisms. But what we are is always a soul. And a soul has also its own talents it brings to the table. And so that doesn't get to flourish until we engage the soul. And so, how do we do that? How do we engage the soul in our everyday life when we've been functioning from our brains and our bodies for so long? And because we have been operating so much from our minds is actually a filter. It filters the soul. And so, how do we begin to engage that? I would start with looking at an inanimate object. Okay, this is an exercise that I have done my whole life. I have come back to it often. I have had to come back to it often because there are things life be lifing. And that produces distortion in the way we see things. And our filters, I'm calling the mind a filter. It is a giant filter. And it has its own filters on top of the filters, like a lens on top of the filters. Or is it a filter on top of the lens if we're talking about photography? Yeah, it is. It's a lens, and then there's filters on it. And so those filters are shaped by everything we live through from our 7 to 10 years of life. I call that our personal algorithms. And the way that our thoughts have been shaped, our opinions, our point of view, our feelings, how we react to things, these are all filters. And when we are, quote unquote, let's say, triggered, most everyone looks for some kind of relief, whatever the form is of the relief, we look for it. And that relief will then put us back into a neutral state. That neutral state doesn't mean that the lens came off. It might mean the filter is turned off or it's in a neutral state, but that doesn't mean that you now have that pure clarity that the soul is capable of. Because the soul is actually very agnostic to our own thoughts, feelings, emotions, preference. Like, it's very agnostic to on any of that. It's actually does not, quote unquote, care. So, and that's a hard thing to swallow because we've gotten so used to identifying ourselves based on our mind, the skills of the mind, our intellect, and our intelligence, intellectual intelligence. But there is this soul intelligence that's capable of being engaged in our life. And so this is a basic thing that I do, and that's to take an inanimate object and give myself, say, a limited amount of time, say 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and I will write a sentence, a factual sentence that I see as is on a piece of paper, and as many as I can without distortion, without what I hope it would be, what I wish it would be, what it could be, what it has been for me, what it symbolizes, none of that. Quite literally, as is. And so I actually call this the as is exercise. And so, for example, I have this pen, okay? And I would take literally 30 seconds and write full sentences, simple sentences, because we're like crunched on time. And I would describe this. It is green. The pen is green. The pen has a cap. The pen has a clip on the cap. It says diplomat there. I do not add anything to it that is not it. Okay? And I know that just seems so mild, but there are so many situations, interaction, information that we look at or we're in where we actually distort this thing. Okay, we don't see it without the lens as is. We don't see it without the filter. And this begins to then get our minds habituated to not being in charge, to being an instrument to what is. So, there's a little invitation for engagement for the soul that you can do. You can expand it to other things, but simple things like this, it takes 30 seconds. You can expand it to a minute. You can expand it to any object. And you'll notice, begin to subtly shift how you see things. Because there is a default way you have been seeing things that your brain will not want to let go of. We're not trying to get you to let go of it. Okay? We are just trying to add to what it can do, which is to be able to express the soul through the brain, to be able to express the soul through the heart, to be able to express the soul through our hands, to be able to express the soul through our mouth, all the different ways that's possible. So long as we have a body, it's possible in all the body parts that we have available to us. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.